AI is headline news these days, unless you've been living under a rock. But work in AI and ML has been underpinning products for a long, long time now. So Ovetta Sampson, a pioneering AI and ML user experience designer, has more than 30 years of experience working in design, tech, and journalism. She's also been a leader of teams at IDEO, at Microsoft, at Capital One, and now at Google. And she was a believer in AI before it was cool. Her motto is Skynet, not yet, and her talk will help us remember why humans are so amazing and get you so excited about what's to come next. Welcome Ovetta to the stage.
Thanks so much, Noah and Jenny. Yes, Skynet, not yet, right? How many people have heard about generative AI? Right? How many people are scared of generative AI? Anybody raise their hand? The people who didn't raise their hand, do you understand why people would raise their hand at that question? I'm here to tell you not to be scared. I'm going to lift the veil on generative AI, and I'm going to explain to you that when it comes to creativity, you are the hero that you've been waiting for. My name is Ovetta, and as my intro says, I'll skip over it. I've been involved in AI and ML for over 10 years, and so I hope at the end of this you will understand a little bit more how these work and how you can master it by tapping into your innate human creativity genes. So what is generative AI, and how is it different than what we now call traditional AI, which used to be the only AI we had 6 months ago, right? It's machine learning models that can generate novel and new concepts and content, including audio, text, imagery, and voice, by learning patterns and structures from their training data. And that last line of generating new is what gets people a little antsy, right? Because AI up until 2020, when ChatGPT came out, I had to be told and trained how to create new content. But really, it's just a souped-up Mad Lib. Large language models are really good at recognizing patterns and structure. So if I say the cat in the, right? Large language models will say and predict that the next word will be hat. But let me tell you something. This did not happen overnight. It's been 7 decades in the making. This should make you feel better about those dumb machines. It took them so long, and it started, we're gonna do a history lesson. It started in 1956 with a group of dudes, John McCarthy being one of them, going to Dartmouth saying that they were gonna create artificial intelligence. Okay, I won't go through it all. I'll skip through all this. If you wanted the history lessons, come afterwards. But flash forward to 2017, after 40 years trying to get machines to understand language, we finally had a breakthrough with the transformer large model. And that model, built at Google, helped machines to not only understand sentence structure, but syntax. And Andrew and I had a little conversation the other day about whether machines can actually understand. And I prefer to say they recognize. They're very good at recognizing patterns, and that was the breakthrough that allowed us to be able to communicate so lovingly and easily with machines. And that's how we got here. But of course, the doom and gloomers came out, and when people saw machines doing mid-journey artistry, writing poems, writing Shakespeare in the tone of Generation Z, which is an interesting thing, you should read that, people said that Generation generative AI is coming for our creatives. And let me tell you, as my motto says, Skynet, not yet. We have advantages as humans that lead us to be more creative than machines can ever be. And these are scientific, research-based understanding of how creativity and innovation happens. We draw, we are adventurous, we break rules, we daydream, and we live life. Something happens, I always tell my team, no offense to Figma, but the best tool for design is a piece of paper and a pencil. And I would always say that, not backed by research, but backed by my own experience. And then I started delving into the neuroscience of what happens to our brains when we draw. There is something that is released in our brains that equals joy. Serotonin and dopamine literally releases every time we draw. That's why drawing and art therapy is used for trauma patients and children, because it puts them in a happy state. These are the drawings of somebody you would probably know more famous for something in physics, but I appreciate his thought experiments to drawing. These are Einstein's images. And ever since he was a small child, and believe you me, they have his birth certificate all the way to all of his grades at Princeton, he's been drawing, trying to solve complex problems. It's a German activity called thought experiments. And when he was 16 years old, he drew a little man trying to outrun light. And that was the basis for special relativity. So if you really want to get more creative, draw more. Another part of being creative is taking risk and having an adventurous spirit, which machines don't do very well. They usually mess up if they go outside the lines. But as humans, when we go outside the lines, we tend to get more innovative and creative. Now, I'm sure you've known about the Gutenberg printing press and how it was a watershed moment in innovation. But do you know much about the man behind it? He was kind of a rascal. He got kicked out of his hometown for borrowing too much money on some of his get-rich-quick schemes. He was always trying to invent and innovate. And one day he was in the town of Aachen in Germany, and he knew that the pilgrims were coming to town because that town was going to release their religious artifacts. And he saw people with hats on and little tin metal alloy squares with mirrors in them. And the idea was the mirror would take the beams from the religious relics, and you could capture it and take it home and spread holy love to your community. Well, we know that as a scam today. But Gutenberg thought, what if I could mass produce something like that? I could make money. So he borrowed a bunch of money, opened up a warehouse, got a bunch of tin and alloy, but the religious festival didn't occur. This was in 1440. So he started working in this warehouse, and the only reason why we know what he was working on is because he got sued by his creditors. And that's when people figured out that he was taking the metal and turning it and combining it with the wine and food press to create the first movable, printable type. So, Gutenberg, rascal or a great inventor? It's up to you. But he took risks and a lot of money from other people. The other thing that helps us to be creative as humans is we break the rules. And I remember Mrs. Kelly, my English teacher, saying when I was reading Merchant of Venice, you have to learn the grammatical rules, dear, before you could break them. And as we learn how to create, once we want to innovate, we need to break those rules wide open. And one of my favorite people who broke rules was Hedy Lamarr. And I use her often when I talk about innovation. Hedy was a movie star in the 1930s, a bombshell that people thought was just about beauty. But when the World War II broke out in 1940s, she went to the National Invention Council and said, I've got an idea. She was married to a tyrant. He turns out to be the arms dealer Mussolini, and he wanted her to be a trophy wife, so he took her to all the secret meetings that he was having with the Nazis and Mussolini, and she learned that they were sabotaging radio signal torpedoes. And she thought, what if we could take those radio signals and they can bounce like melodies do in space when a piano plays? Amazing, right? So she got together with a piano player, patented this secret coded communication system, sent it to the Navy, and they said, thank you, Hedy, but you should just sell war bonds. They rejected her invention. But in the 1960s, they pulled it out, and guess what? We have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth today, thanks to Hedy Lamarr's secret coding system. So break the rules. One of my favorite things to help us to be more creative and innovative is to daydream. Again, back to neuroscience. Something happens in your brain when you stop on a problem. Ever been stuck in a problem? Just could not get through and have a breakthrough, and then you go take a shower, or you go for a run, or you have silly string with your kid, and then all of a sudden you're running back to the table to write down your beautiful idea. What's occurring when your brain daydreams is that your default network and your prefrontal cortex is activated. And that with your, what's called your executive network, come together to put your brain in a space to problem solve. There is probably no musician or producer that affected my life more than Pharrell Williams. His songwriting, music producing is legendary, and he made what is quite arguably one of the most beloved songs in modern history, Because I'm Happy. But do you know the story behind that song? The producers of Despicable Me had asked Pharrell to make this song, and he sent them 7 versions, and they rejected them all. He just could not find a way to make a creative song. All the versions he sent sounded like something else. And it wasn't until he stopped creating and started daydreaming about what happiness really felt like that the final version came, and we all tapped our feet to it. And he said in an interview with NPR, all those no's brought me to a place of 0. And that nirvana, that place of stillness, of nothing, is when you can ask yourself a clear question and get a clear answer back. Because I can't take authorship for that song. The moment wrote it. That is all. So the next time your manager asks you to be creative, just tell him you're going to go daydream. And the last is experience life. No machine can experience life. And we all know that sometimes tragedy, sadness, and hurt and pain turn into the most beautiful, innovative, and creative things. This is blind Tom Wiggins. He was born into slavery. He was born blind. Some people thought he was deaf and mute. And the owner of the plantation of where he was born in Georgia wanted to throw him away and kill him. But he let him live, and he learned how to play the piano and became one of the most prolific entertainers of the 18th and early 1900s. And I just want to say that if you haven't read Tyemba's Jess, Pulitzer Prize-winning poem about blind Tom Wiggins in Olio, please go do it, because it shows you what a life well lived can come to create. So in the end, it's not us versus the machines. It's our creativity, our innate ability as humans to make new out of old and to break through and to daydream that allows us to partner with amazing tools to make great things. And our hope is that our human brains and computer machines will couple together, and together we will make things that never before we will dream of. You are the heroes, the creative innovators that you have been waiting on, and generative AI could never replace you.
Great job, great job, great job.
Oh my God, I got chills. That was a nice history lesson and super eye-opening. I've got a lot to think about for sure.
Yeah, seriously, Ovetta is a legend.